So 1A, we're off with scientific notation. So the first question out there to the gallery is, does anybody remember anything about scientific notation? Yes, sir.
They look like power signs, but not really.
There's power signs in it, I'll take that.
So the number in the parentheses, like the 2, cannot be over 10.
Okay, so we need some kind of a number that goes as high as 10. Can it be 10 itself, do you remember? No. So it's a number from 1 to 10, but not 10 itself going to get involved. That's true. There's powers involved, that's true. Thank you.
Is it just like the power symbol is just how many zeros the number is?
That's it, going to be in the mix, yeah.
It's like how many like numbers. So it's not like only 0. It would also be like any numbers to make it be less than 10.
That's true. Other memories? Getting a little help from our cameraman over here.
If it's under, you think of
It would be so funny if it was just wrong.
I can remember that.
But
Use a decimal.
Decimals, okay, I'll take that. It has to be a decimal number, that's true. Can't have fractions or things like that, it's got to be decimal numbers. Could be whole numbers, because something like 2 is a decimal number in a sense, because that's like 2.0, like the decimal's there. So we do need a decimal number. From something to 10, okay, 10 is the upper limit, we can't use 10 itself. Recollection on what the lowest limit is for this is 1. Can it be 1 itself?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we need a decimal number. Can be 1 or bigger, up to 10, but it can't be 10 itself. The best you can go is like 9.99999, you know, one of those deals. And then it's always times a certain number to a power. Look around the board if you don't have it in your memory. What's the number going to a power? 10. It's always times 10 to a power. How you decide on that power, sometimes that power is positive for certain kinds of numbers. Sometimes that power is negative for other kinds of numbers. Also retrieving from our memory, like, why did people do this? Why did people create the idea of scientific notation? Anybody have reflection on either of those things?
So you want to write really big and really small numbers?
Yeah. So what it is, it's a convenient way to write really big or small numbers. So this is a really big number. What family is this in? Like, it's more than billions. Where is this one taking us? It's taking us to trillions. These are the millions, then these are the billions. This is in trillions. If we wanted to go again and show off, quadrillion. But that's a really, really big number. So there is a way to write this really big number in scientific notation in a much more convenient, like compacted way. This is a really small number. Here we're probably in the trillionths or the quadrillionths. This is like so little you don't even know it's there almost, kind of a number. So this is a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of stuff. It's still lengthy, but there's a way using scientific notation to shrink this down. Anybody a recollection, when do you use positive powers versus when do you use negative powers?
The positive powers are the really big numbers.
Positive powers are for the really big numbers, and therefore the negative powers are for the really small numbers. So job 1 that we need to be reminded of is taking a number that's in standard notation or decimal notation, can be what these are called, and writing it into scientific notation. So the first thing we'd have to do is think about, where could I plop down a decimal? Right now there's a decimal here at the end that we can't see, but it's there. Where could I plop a decimal down in this number to be somewhere between 1 and 10?
In between the 9 and the 4.
In between the 9 and the 4. That's where we would want to put a decimal to create a number that's between 1 and 10. So our answer in scientific notation is going to have 9.46. We're not going to write any of the zeros, but we have to write all of the numbers other than zeros. It's 9.46 times 10 always. This is a really big number, so we want a positive power. What would be the number on the positive power? It is 12. How did you know that it's 12? Because we count. It used to be here, and we've moved it 3, 6, 9, 12 positions, so it's a power of 12. Question about working into scientific notation on a big number. So small number, there's only going to be one real difference when we do the small number. What's the one real difference when we do a small number? Negative power is the only real difference. So the first thing we do is just plunk the decimal down somewhere, so it's a number between 1 and 10. Where would we want to plunk it? Between the 1 and the 5. So that just created the number 1.56. Always times, always 10, and then we count to do the power. Decimal used to live here. Decimal now does live here. We just count how much we moved. 11. If we do that, we're wrong. Negative 11. Little numbers need negative power. Question about job 1, standard notation changed into scientific. Job 2 is just to reverse it then. So if I give you a number in scientific notation, and I didn't make the exponent very big because I just didn't feel like writing a big giant mess of stuff. If I give you something in scientific notation, we should be able to change it back. So where is the decimal again in this form? To the right of it. So there's a decimal right there, there's a decimal right there. If I want to make this 10 to the negative 2, how am I going to tinker with that decimal point? Move it which way? We're going to go to the left. Negative powers, we're just going to move the decimal left twice. Bounce, bounce. What would that number be? 0.04. If I want to go positive 2 power, it's a similar move. We're just headed to the
right.
right. So if we take this decimal and go to the right, bounce, bounce, it would be 400. Question about scientific turned into standard. It's job 2. Job 3 is let's multiply. So when we multiply, that's like what we just took the quiz on, that's what we did the homework on and the lesson on yesterday. When we multiply things, what do we do with the coefficients? Just multiply them. So coefficient here would be 8. Still times 10, we never change the bases. What did we do to the powers when it's multiplied time? We add them. So if we add those powers, that would be 5. Question about that? Even if you didn't know one thing about scientific notation, we could have done that one just using yesterday's knowledge, but there's nothing really new about that. So somebody jump in, multiply this.
800,000.
Next one up.
Oh, shoot.
If we come into,
Wow.
yeah, if we're given scientific notation, we're just gonna stick with
Oh, cool. 12.
it. We'd have a 12,
5. I mean, still 10. And
10,
then
5. Okay, I'm with that. Somebody else jump in on that one. 28. Agreed. So using our knowledge from yesterday, we're just multiplying the coefficients, we're adding the powers. And I'm going to hesitate there for a second. Question or comment on that little group?
At least in the, like the 12 can't be scientific.
Okay, yeah, we need to adjust. Okay, so Aubrey is saying, hey, wait a minute. We can't be happy with this anymore. Why can't we be happy with that anymore?
Because the highest number can go is 10.
The biggest we're allowed to be is 10. Okay, so we're not allowed to have 10. We're not allowed to go above 10. When you multiply, sometimes you get above 10. So this needs to be modified in some way to make a better answer. Was this answer okay? Yes. Sometimes you multiply and you get something that's between 1 and 10. Hey, we're lucky. Good. We take it. But 12 isn't. 12, we need the decimal relocated. So we don't want 12, we want to relocate the decimal to be 1.2. Which you can't generally do stuff in math unless you find a way to like pay for it. Things kind of work oppositely sometimes. If you're going to make one part of the answer bigger, you have to pay for that by making another part of the answer smaller. And that like evens things out. So the 12 had to get littler, so the power has to get bigger. And we're now 10 to the 6. Question about that balancing act. So are we happy or unhappy here? Not happy. 28 is too big. So we need to adjust that. So 28 goes out, who comes in? 2.8. Again, we made the number part smaller, so you have to make the power part bigger. Hesitate when you get a negative number. Negative 3, look at the number line if you have to. If negative 3 gets bigger in a true value number line sense, who's the next bigger number beyond negative 3? Negative 2 is correct. Question about the multiplying part of the world. It divided. We could have divided this yesterday. We don't need the today lesson to do it, but here we are, so we might as well talk this through. When we divide, what did we do to the coefficients? Reduced them like a fraction. Today, though, we have to get everything to be decimals. We can't treat things like fractions. It has to be made decimals. But 4 over 2, if we reduce that to the best of our ability, that's 2. Always times 10. What do we do to the powers when it's divide time? Subtract. Subtract powers?
-4.
I agree with negative 4. Question about that one. Dividing these coefficients is not 2. Why is this not 2 the way that one's 2?
Because the bigger number's on the bottom.
Bigger number was on the bottom. So we've got to think about 2/4, and we've got to turn that into a decimal number. What is 2/4 as a decimal number? 0.5. 2/4 is the same as a half. A half is the same as 0.5. If you know that, you're good. If you got a fraction you didn't know, grab your calculator and punch what? To make any fraction a decimal, what would we punch? 2 divided by 4. Top divided by bottom, just punch it, make it a decimal. But if you know your fraction decimal equivalencies, great. If you don't know them, calculator knows them. So top divided bottom is 0.5 times the 10. Power on the 10 is a 4. Question on that one. So we'll go one more time. 6/8. 6/8, we have to make a fraction into a decimal or something. Ultimately, the goal is to make a decimal. 6/8 in decimal pound is 0.75. If you know those, great. If you don't know those, again, 6 dividing 8 can get you 0.75. Times 10, always times 10. What's our power?
-4.
Negative 4. Question or comment on the dividing trio?
You gotta fix the one.
We gotta fix some. Yeah, who doesn't need to be fixed?
The first one.
The first one. 2 is between 1 and 10, so I will now commit to that answer. 0.5 is not between 1 and 10. 0.5 is too small. So we have to make that part of it bigger. 0.5 upgrades to be 5. So if we're going to go up on the number, we have to go down on the power. 10 now to the third. Something about that. 0.75, good or bad?
Bad.
Bad. So 0.75's got to become 7.5, which means that one just got bigger, so the power has to get smaller. Hesitate on your negatives and make sure you're paying attention and zoned in. -4, look at the number line if you had to, got smaller. -5 is correct. If a homework, test, quiz, whatever comes in with scientific notation, just go out with scientific notation. I don't want you to trade them into standard notation unless they tell you. If it comes in scientific, just stay scientific. That's why this got invented. The first couple homework problems, though, somewhere early, will probably tell you, make this standard notation, and you'll have to do a little bit of decimal moving, but that's very little done in this homework. Sure. Homework on this page, we are working 43. 43 has a 1 to 30. So the first part of 43 is taking really long numbers and making them scientific notation. The second part is taking scientific notation and undoing it back to moving decimals around. Then they go back to a few more of these really long numbers made scientific. Then there's a multiply zone, make sure you stay under 10, and then there's a divide zone, make sure you stay over 1 for final answer. Tomorrow when we show up in class, I'll real quick run through the 43 answers, and then tomorrow's main job is take a quiz. The quiz is just like the sheet I gave you to prepare. If you want to use the sheet to prepare, again, the answers are over on the window if you want that. Tomorrow's Thursday. For Friday, I have a practice test for you that'll be due Friday that I'll probably give you tomorrow. If you're urgent to work ahead, if you know your Thursday night's bad and you want to work ahead, I could give it to you ahead of time. Just let me know before you leave the room. There's a practice test that we do Friday, and then you'll have a first chapter test of the year on Monday, first chapter test. For now, let's go to the homework that's due today, which is 39. And we'll just run through some answers and see what we can do. So, volunteer, jump in on number 1 on 39. Roll it.
5 to the 9th.
It is 5 to the 9th.
6 to the 8th.
True.
8 to the negative 4.
True.
9 to the negative 6.
True.
8 to the negative 6.
True.
9 to the negative 7.
Yep, that's almost my birthday.
B to the negative 30.
Yep.
Just A.
Just A. You could write A to the 1. You don't have to write the 1.
8 to the 30.
Yep.
X, just a 0.
You could do X to the 0. What's the best answer instead of X to the 0? 1. We could do just a 1 is probably best answer. Keep going.
6x to the 3rd.
True.
18y to the 3rd.
True. Or Y to the what?
5th.
I agree, yep.
Negative 28 to the 5th, but n to the 5th.
True. 3 more, then we'll let you off the hook.
Negative 18 x to the 7th, and then y.
True.
Negative 14, and then x to the negative 11.
True.
And negative 24 x to 12 y.
That's really close.
What did you say?
She said negative 24, it'll be an X to the negative 12, and then a Y. You didn't say a negative, but did you have it written? You just forgot to say
Yeah.
it. You read for a long time, so you're starting.
I'm ready to be done.
You were starting to lose it. I don't like
take me.
Anybody first 16 need any tips on how to be as smart as the person that read all those answers? Anything, first 16? 17, divide skills. Somebody show some divide skills.
Six to the 5th.
True.
7 to the 5th.
True.
4 to the 5th.
True.
5 to 11.
True.
10 to negative 9.
True.
12 to negative 12.
True.
9 to 2.
True.
2 to negative 2.
True.
I think that's 9 to 5.
A to the 5th, yeah.
That's what it is. Y to 9.
True. And then they start to take it up a notch.
1.
1 is best answer, yes.
Negative 3. A B squared.
True.
Negative 4 thirds. X 9. Y negative
Yes.
2. Negative.
Yeah, as long as you have the negative 4 thirds as its own thing and the xy just next to it, not as part of the fraction, yes, I agree with what you said, and that's probably how you wrote it.
Negative 7 fourths.
Yep,
A negative 8 to negative 4.
yep,
B squared.
agreed.
The 3 over 2 x to the 3rd y squared.
Close. Nice round. Slight change, 31.
Y to the negative 2.
Y is to the negative 2, yep, and clean up 32.
7 minus a is to the 16th.
That's true. Anybody need some guidance on divide life? You want to keep rolling or make someone else go?
Well, I can go for it.
All right, keep rolling.
4 to the 6.
Yep,
5 to the 20.
yep,
8 to the negative 12.
yep,
9 to the negative 12.
yep,
6 to the 12.
yep,
7 to the 48.
yep,
27, x to the 6th, 1 to the 6th.
yep. They took us up a notch on that one. They got harder at 39. Yep,
32, a to the 15, b to the 20.
yep,
1/4, x to the negative 6th, y to the 8th.
yep. It's worth a discussion on the 1/4. Since there's a negative power, that coefficient gets flipped away from being a whole number to being a 1 over kind of number. The next bunch of answers in a row should all have 1 over something and then some letters beside it. So that one had 1/4 and then x negative 6, y positive 8, yes. 42?
1/27, a to the negative 6, b to the 15.
Really, really close. Anybody have a minor change on 42?
What did she say?
She said 1/27, a to the negative 6, b to the 15.
Is it just,
Isn't just what she said, but like a fraction?
It's negative, yeah. Since we have a negative go to an odd, that answer is going to be a negative. So it's negative 1/27, a to the negative 6, b to the positive 15. 43, anybody? Yep.
Okay. Negative 6a to the negative 4, b to the negative 6, and c to the negative 2.
I agree with 2 of those 4 pieces. We need 2 tune-ups on that one.
Okay. Please go.
Yep. Anybody notice a tune-up on that one? I'll say I like c to the negative 2, I like b to the negative 6. I didn't like the a's that he said. Anybody have an a count?
4.
It is a to the 4, and then the beginning needed to be a fraction. There's this is the third out of 4 in a row that start with fractions. A fraction start 43. 136 is true. 44 up for grabs. It's 1 over pretty big, and then some XYZ stuff. Anybody 1 over and then pretty big?
does it start with the 4,
It does.
then a 0,
Uh-huh.
the 9,
Yeah.
and the 6,
Yeah.
x 16,
Yep.
4 negative 20, I mean y,
Y negative 20, yep.
z negative 5.
You're
That's an
prob-
8.
Yeah, that's an 8. Z negative 8, that's true. 45 up for grabs.
Enough to
45 looks scary. It isn't. I mean, there's a few different ways you could write the answer. The simplest way to write the answer on 45 is it would take roughly 2 seconds to do it. Now I put the pressure on because I made it sound like it's easy. There's about a 2-second way to do number 45. It won't match the answer in the back. I wouldn't have an answer that matches the answer they have. They made this harder, I think, than it needed to be. I know you don't want to do it. Make somebody else cave in and do it. It's fine, we can wait.
Can we get the girl right there? Do it.
Leave me alone.
He's calling people out.
Maybe.
Okay, this might be wrong.
Hey,
but
give it a
it's-
shot.
Is it 4 to the negative 9
Yeah.
or 3 to the negative 12?
Yeah, I would go 4 to the negative 9 on top. I'd go 3 to the 12th on the bottom. I'm fine with that. 46, I would do just like 45.
So 5 to the negative 6 on top of 4 to the 9.
That's fine. I'm good with that. 20 or 47 is a little different kind of problem.
I see.
Anybody? You want to keep rolling? That's
Okay.
okay.
Bro, you're doing so good.
Yeah,
The difference
we were
on
so bad.
47, what can you do on 47 that you couldn't do on any of the other ones really until this does this? What's possible on 47 to get it started before you would do the powers?
like 3 times 2 and then 3 times the third.
No, there's something that we can attack before doing the powers on 47. None of the other questions have been set up like this. 48 is set up this same way too.
Get rid of some y's.
Yeah, we could get rid of some y's. The first thing I would do on 47 is divide the y's. To divide the y's, what do we do to the powers on the y's? Subtract them. So I wouldn't mess with the 2 or the 3. I wouldn't mess with the x. But I would subtract the powers on the y's so that you don't have y's in 2 locations, but you only have y's in 1 location. Then I would do the problem like regularly after that. Anybody 47? I'll just let that one hang. 48, I would take the same approach. I'm not only able to subtract the y's this time, I'm also able to attack the x's. So I would leave 4 and 5 alone, and I would look to subtract powers on x's and y's, and then I would look to do the math beyond that at that point. 58, I said, would have a very small answer. I would say 58 has the smallest answer probably since like around number 38. It's smaller than all the answers we got from 39 and on. Anybody 58 think you had success and have a fairly small answer to try to impress me?
2x equals y equals.
It's that size and that's really close. Yeah, it's not that much different than that. Very similar to that. Anybody have something very close to a 2x to the 4, y to the 4? It's just the powers that are off. I like that too, coefficient. Your powers are not forced, they're something else. So 58, I'll just leave that hanging. It's 2, and then it's x something, y something. It's not force, it's some other number, but it's not 2s. They're both 2s, that's correct. Yeah, it's a 2x squared, y squared. So that's what that is. 5 minutes left. Can I help anybody to achieve success on anything that wasn't yet a success on page 40? Anything I can do to benefit your algebra career? Okay, so again, round up tomorrow's homework. We're looking to do page 43. If you want to do that sheet to prep for the quiz, it'll help you have a better quiz, I would think. The answers live over there. Tomorrow we'll do a quick homework run through and then take a quiz. Tomorrow I'll give you a practice test. If you know your Thursday is a busy night, I'd give you your practice test early because I have them. If you want the practice test due Friday, I'd give you today if you want it. And then we can wrap that up.